One of the things that I wanted to provide today was some varied options. For instance, if we're going to a meal that's going to be offering like a Galentine's Day.
Welcome to the Southwest Utah Health Podcast. For the nearly 300,000 people living in the region, public health is the ounce of prevention that's worth a pound of cure.
This is Dave, and I'm here with Jamie, our health educator for our clinical services. February is American Heart Month every year, drawing attention to the fact that heart disease is still America's #1 killer for adult men and women. Everything from heart attack and stroke to other complications that come from an unhealthy heart. There are all kinds of conditions that affect heart disease, but it's one of those diseases that has an element of prevention to it. There are things we can do to decrease our chances of struggling with heart disease. And one of those, of course, is what we eat. When we're standing here in front of a spread, it looks like a Valentine's Day dinner.
Absolutely, yes. In fact, one of the things that I've enjoyed since working here at the health department is being able to be involved with lifestyle change programs. One of the things that I wanted to provide today was some varied options. For instance, if we're going to a meal that's going to be offering like a Galentine's Day, or perhaps if you're doing a progressive dinner or maybe even mystery dinner, or even sitting down with your spouse and just enjoying a nice Valentine's meal, what are some options that would be healthy where you can not compromise taste for some of those extra carbs that you might find yourself eating. So I have a focus, and actually it's recommended that there's many steps that we can do, but some helpful tips to improve our heart health. And one of those is to reduce your portion size. And so I have here, of course, our recommended diabetes plate, which is different than the My Plate, because if you notice, you see half of that plate is going to be vegetables. And then you also have on the My Plate, you have fruits and vegetables on one side, protein, a quarter of that, and grains, and your dairies on the side. Now, again, these are 9-inch plates. If we go back to 1960s, it was actually an 8-inch plate. And then even today, if you go out to eat, do you remember how big your plate size was, Dave, last time you ate?
They're like platters.
Yes,
like you
absolutely.
might put a Thanksgiving turkey on. The plates are getting bigger.
I know, they're like 10 or 11-inch plates, and so that affects our portion sizes. So as you're going to be serving your meal, or you're going to your brunch, or your whatever meal you're choosing to do, think about that and controlling your portion sizes. The second thing that they recommend is to increase your fruits and vegetables. And here I've tried to provide, number one, you can do a veggie platter. I typically am a default, I'm going to put ranch out with that. A couple of the things that's going to improve your heart health would be putting hummus instead. Is that something that you like to pair your vegetables with, Dave?
Actually, yes. My wife especially likes hummus. I usually would put crackers in it, which that's a lot of carbs, but she will do what you've got here. So you've got baby carrots, red peppers, sliced cucumbers. Those are grape tomatoes, right? Or cherry tomatoes, sugar snap peas. These dipped in hummus are pretty good as well. They've got a crunch to them, and I actually love hummus. It's great, and it's vegetable-based garbanzo beans, right? Isn't that what it's made from? And that's a great idea. We're actually looking at a really healthy charcuterie board. Am I saying that right?
Absolutely.
That's the big thing to have as hors d'oeuvres.
Yes, and so you're pairing, again, a carb with a protein. So that's helping, for instance, our diabetic friends. If you're going to an event, more than likely you're going to have individuals who are thinking about those kinds of things. And I know for me, when I go somewhere, I want to have a few options, and maybe at least one that I brought that I feel like is a good, healthy alternative to what I could have in front of me. I actually would like to spend some time talking a little bit about water and how important it is to our bodies. And many of you, when you go out to a dinner, it's easy to get a soda. And I always, when I go, I like water. And if I feel good, I'll add lemon to it. But when you're serving, I definitely feel like you need to have a nice little twist of freshness. And so I've put here, if I'm going to be serving a meal, I'll put out the lemon. I prefer the lemon in my drink, but you also have mint in there and then a little bit of cucumber. Is that something you guys have ever tried at your house, Dave?
We've done lemon or lime slices, and it's interesting how just that little taste makes it a little bit more special. So water is probably the best thing to drink with meals. Like you say, sodas, really a lot of sugar should be treated more like a dessert. And so I love what you've done there, adding some color and some little hints of flavor to the water.
Yes, well, thank you. In fact, I'm blushing. Thank you, Dave. So they recommend that you have 60 ounces of water a day, or you can also, so think of your weight and then you divide that by 2, and that's how many ounces of water you're supposed to be taking in for your hydration. Okay, so I'm going to kind of move left to right on our table. We started off with a vegetable charcuterie board idea where you have a mix of colors in there. Moving on to the middle of our table, Dave, do you want to show us what we have? This is a chicken salad lettuce boat, and if you're doing a Valentine's meal, maybe you'd call it, at a mystery dinner, you might call this like Cupid's hearts or something. So this gives us a protein that is going to be a little bit on the lean protein side. That's also a recommendation that's given for heart health, is that you choose a protein that is lean. In fact, one of our friends at the extension office, she mentions that the more legs that it has, typically the more fat that is going to be in your protein. So the less amount of legs, so think of like a fish, that's going to be obviously no legs, one of your better proteins to have.
Tell us the ingredients.
Actually, I've used canned chicken for this, and one of the things that I did was I drained the broth and then I shredded the chicken. Then we added sliced apples. I have some almonds in there. Nuts and seeds are very good for your heart health. And then some green onions to keep some flavor there, to make sure that you're not compromising your flavor by losing some of that salt. So. And
you've got them each laid out in some leaves of romaine lettuce, so that's the crispy part there.
Absolutely. When I'm going out, I typically like the lettuce bowls or the wraps a little bit more. It tends to sit better with me. So again, if you're going to an event, think about that. If you have people that are gluten-free, this is a definite easy thing to make, and it gives them an option. The next thing that I've brought, if you're going to be going to a meal, is going to be the Easy Capris. And these hits everything, where you get your flavor from your basil leaf, you have your mini tomato or your cherry tomato, and then a mozzarella pearl. They have these at the local groceries. They're really easy to put together. You just put a toothpick, and then you have a really beautiful display of a very easy appetizer that you could bring, that brings a lot of those food groups all into one section.
Now, as you're talking, this can't be just for show. I'm going to try one of these.
Please do.
Hors d'oeuvres,
please
okay?
do. Yes.
So you called this what again?
It's a Capris.
Okay.
Yeah.
So grape tomato, mozzarella.
Wrapped with a basil leaf.
It's a basil leaf, okay.
And you just
I love basil. Smells amazing.
Oh, good. Yes, it does. Now, for those of you who have a more refined palate, Dave, I don't know if you're in that category, sometimes you might add a vinaigrette over top of that. So think of your balsamic vinegar you can put on top of that. I prefer it. It's kind of strong, so I did not put it on. But again, it depends on your audience and who you're serving. So what do you think, Dave?
So that's really good. I'm not used to having like a whole basil leaf. It wasn't too strong. That was really delicious. Okay. And I can imagine the balsamic vinegar drizzled over there. I would love that. So
yes,
yeah,
it
that's
gives
great.
it a little bit more of a tangy taste to it.
Yeah.
Okay,
so next we have what here in front?
So we have two different types of nuts. We have a pistachio and then I have a pecan. Now this would be something along your dessert area. It's kind of the thing now. It's very interesting. They're recommending that for your natural sweeteners and your desserts, to kind of pull away from your sugars and your refined products, to use the natural sweets. So you're going to be using your fresh fruit, but also the nuts themselves are very good, and they give more of a fill, like a good filling, F-I-L-L, I should say that. They're going to fill you up. And so put out a couple different flavors and let people choose for their dessert whether they want the chocolate. So this is a bar of chocolate. Oh, thank you. There we go. It's nice and unwrapped. They recommend that it's at least 70% of that dark cacao bean in there. And so that's what we have. But again, you're going to put it into squares. So if you're not able to watch with us, think about putting out those chocolate squares for your guests. Or
so this one breaks into squares that you can set out.
Yes, absolutely, nice and easy. And then you can display, of course, your fruit. However, I chose to do raspberries and blueberries and strawberries with a bunch of mint. I just had a friend come back from a trip to Europe, and she had all kinds of fresh mint leaves in her desserts, and I thought I can certainly spice this up a little bit more.
So you've shelled the pistachios and the pecans, so they're ready to eat. And these are also, a lot of these foods most of them don't require utensils. And so
correct.
You don't have to worry about that. People can have a plate or a napkin and serve themselves in that way. Looks really convenient. What I love what you've done too is there's something about presentation, right? So the food's healthy, it's great, but you've arranged it in a way that's just really attractive and beautiful. And then you've arranged the fruit here, and I mean, you almost hate to interrupt the design and start eating it, right? But it looks great.
You have to be the first ones to break it, yeah.
You've got foods on there that sometimes we call these things superfoods, like blueberries, when you talk about vitamins, antioxidants.
Coming off of that idea, our nuts right here are great for heart health. In fact, coming over here, chia seeds, and many of you might not be familiar with chia seeds, but they are from Central America. And seeds themselves have not just one, they have they're good for your gut health because they have fiber, but the antioxidants that come into the fresh fruits and vegetables. So the red vegetables are going to have something called a lycosine, and that itself is very good for your heart health. So your red vegetables, your red peppers, your tomatoes.
You're supposed to try to have a variety of colors, right?
Okay.
Eat the rainbow type of a thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes,
so,
definitely.
well, you can see it right here, actually, the rainbow where with the vegetable plate, she's got orange, green, red. The fruit over here, the blueberries, the raspberries, the lighter red strawberries. And so eating the rainbow is kind of a good way to remember that if you get a lot of variety with your produce, it's good for you. You're getting a lot of mixture of vitamins and nutrients. I do like how you mentioned red is good for heart health. That's easy to remember around Valentine's Day, right? If
Right,
you eat
absolutely.
red fruits and vegetables, that's going to help your heart. But you were talking about chia seeds, which I remember from the 80s and 90s, you'd buy the chia pets, right? The little
Oh, yes,
terracotta things.
that's
You'd spread the
right.
seeds on and they grow
The
into
grass grows.
the hair. But apparently, they're good to eat.
I know, who would have thought? So chia seeds themselves, you can buy them in like large sacks or whatever they are, but they're little tiny black seeds. I would say it's like a poppy seed. It looks like that, Dave. What do you think?
Maybe a little bigger.
Yeah, so you can get them in black, they're black or white. It looks like there's some gray in here, but ultimately these chia seeds are great for when you're adding them to a dish. They're going to congeal whatever liquid you have in there. So today, actually, I have this from the Utah Extension Office Diabetes Cook-Along book. They have a recipe in there that's a raspberry coconut chia pudding. The coconut milk's on the bottom. Again, I'm choosing a fat that's a healthy fat. We have the red berries. The chia seed has been sitting in there overnight. And then I did add a little bit of sweetener, so we have maple syrup and then some coconut in there to give it a little bit more texture as well. It's a little bit thicker, but if you're going to be digging into this, it's going to be congealed because of the chia seed. But it does have protein in it as well as that extra fiber, and the carb count is a good amount. It's not too much for anybody that's diabetic. That's why it's in our Diabetes Cook-Along book.
The diabetic diet actually is probably a good all-around diet when you get down to it, with lots of fruits and vegetables, fiber, and not having the bulk of our food be so many carbs and sugars.
Correct.
So we moved the table over here in between us. So Jamie is the expert here, and I'm going to be the novice learner, where I'm going to just follow her instructions to make this dish.
And we're making the chia raspberry coconut pudding, and it can be used as a breakfast, or you're welcome to use it as a dessert. A lot of times I'll enjoy that while my husband is having something not quite as chia seedy, but it's up to you what you want to do. Start with the coconut base. So it's about a cup that we already have established inside that cute little bowl.
Okay, and when you say coconut milk, a lot of people expect they're going to pour out runny milk. In the can, it's a thicker substance, right?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
So, yeah.
It's going to be thick, and it's a little bit chilly, at least in my estimate right now, and so it's on the more congealed side, but if it warms up, it is going to become more liquid. Okay, so the first thing we're going to add is going to be about a tablespoon of maple syrup.
Okay. And we're going to cook the real way in that we're sort of estimating what a tablespoon is, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
saying that's probably about a tablespoon.
Correct. Then we're going to add about a tablespoon of the coconut.
And this is just the shredded coconut you get in a bag?
Correct. Now you can get unsweetened versus sweetened. I think that's splitting hairs myself, and I would most recommend just whatever you feel most comfortable with.
Okay.
The next thing is go ahead and add your chia,
okay.
Add your chia. We're going to do it mentions 2 tablespoons, and I think that's personal preference, but if you want the full benefit of those 2 tablespoons, then go ahead and add those. Then they ask for a cup of raspberries, and I always found, like, if you notice, I put it in a mason jar, and for me, a half a cup was just sufficient for my mason jar, and so here, you're welcome to this is about a half a cup of raspberries in there. You're welcome to put that in there. Typically, you would want to mix that up. So
Okay.
I know we're using that spoon that has the chia already on it, but go for it. You're going to let it set overnight in your fridge. It's going to congeal and become more like that thicker dessert or breakfast. Do a teaspoon of lime juice. Sometimes I think that helps bring all of those flavors together. I squeeze a little bit of that lime in there.
And the bottled lime, it's from concentrate, so it's still juice, but it has kind of that bottled flavor. There's nothing like fresh lime. It's not that expensive, right? So
yeah, and I did try and roll the lime. A lot of times they recommend that you roll the lime before you squeeze. Oh, that's looking really good, Dave. And there you have it. So it's a chia coconut raspberry pudding.
Is it legal to try it right now before the chia seeds have set?
Absolutely. Why not?
Yeah, I'm really curious.
I
I
would
want to
grab
try
a raspberry
some.
and see what it tastes like with that coconut around it.
That's really good.
Wonderful.
It has a few layers of flavors there.
Yes.
So it's just sweet enough, but yeah, that's delicious.
So one of the things that I'm hoping is that as you look at your meal plan, Try and plan ahead so that you can get those fresh fruits and vegetables into your diet.
As you get into a habit of eating healthier food, you start to crave it and enjoy it, and you lose your desire for the highly refined stuff. If people are wondering how they can do it, you can do it. It's a little bit of a learning curve, but it is rewarding as far as just you feel better when you eat it.
You know, your diet changes, you want it to be small steps, small things. For sugar itself, I think you can commit to whether it's a week. I feel like you get more results if you do a full month. Like you can really start to feel those changes in the food once you halt something for a month, at least for the sugar, like the cakes and the cookies, the refined things.
Thank you, Jamie. You've gone to a lot of trouble. You made this amazing spread. I say we take another lunch hour and finish it off.
This podcast was brought to you by the Southwest Utah Public Health Department. For more information, visit swuhealth.gov.